Hey, welcome to X-Oriente, the new voice of brotherhood. I am your second host, Eric Diamond. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out ways to make this more clever, and it just completely bombed. So I'm Eric Diamond, founder.
I'm Jason Van Dyke. I just work here.
He just works here. So got a really great show for you to play tonight. We're going to be talking about marketing and Masonry. But before we do that, let's talk about Ex Libris. This week's Ex Libris drop will be a bunch of grimoires. We're going to be the Arbitel of Magic, the Grimoire of Armadale, the Grimoire of Honorius. These sound like Lego sets. Grimoire Veru, Heptameron, Libellus Magicus, the Black Pullet, the Black Raven, Harry Potter and the Grand Grimoire, Dark Lodge, the Order of GBG, and the Secret Grimoire of Turiel. All for our executive producers, exclusive access. They will be uploaded to Patreon, and if you would like to...
that's hot stuff.
Yeah, if you'd like to get access to the Ex Libris library, it's over 2,400 volumes of esoteric goodness. You can become an executive producer at X-Oriente, patreon.com/X-Oriente, and we'll have a link in the show notes. So
all the grimoire you can handle.
All the grimoire you can handle. Plus those little
Plus
little
some
figurines,
you can't.
those little figurines with the little hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, let's get to our main topic tonight. We have a guest in the house.
We do.
And our guest, there he is.
Sorry, I was jamming to I want to delay, so I'm listening to the theme music.
The theme music
slaps. Yeah.
Fantastic. So this is Nicky Sempoya. You probably haven't met him yet, even though he's actually done a show with us.
He has.
But the show that we did with him was the show where the main Mac crashed, and so it was completely, while it was a good time, it was completely unsalvageable.
That was a great show too. You'll just have to take our word for it.
It was indeed.
It was like the Grand Grimoire of the Dark Lodge. It was which you can get if you become an executive producer of X-Oriente.
That's right.
So we asked Nicky to come by because for two reasons. One is because he's a really cool guy with an amazing beard. Like I have total beard envy. Secondly, Nicky, like me, works in marketing, although Nicky works in a different area of marketing. Whereas I work for a big agency, he works more client side, right?
I would say, yeah, that's a fun way to describe it. You're like, he is totally capable of talking about the subject matter of this evening, so just trust me.
Yeah,
right. Trust me.
But to put a finer point on it, Nicky works in social media marketing, which is like I used to do social media marketing, but I used to do it on the strategy side, where I think you're like way more hands-on, way more like all aspects of,
Yeah. So I mean, just as an introduction, my job, I'm the director of social media at WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. So my job is really about, kind of focuses on two things. One is content creation, and the other is kind of social management. So I think a lot of where my marketing stuff is, or kind of where my quote unquote expertise in marketing would be, is really just in our storytelling and how we continue to tell a story of a show that really never ends in a universe that is kind of running sometimes parallel but also intertwined with real life, which is kind of interesting. So yeah.
So it's would you characterize the WWE as sort of like a not augmented reality, an alternative reality game?
So yeah. So I think honestly, it's an interesting way, and especially as the company becomes less of a wrestling company and more of just like a digital media or a media company. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how do you describe it? Obviously, the lion's share of our industry is the in-ring performance, right? So our in-ring performer or live events going to a WWE show, right? But it's also too, like we have an offshoot YouTube channel that is a lifestyle channel. We have an offshoot YouTube channel that's about just kind of the athletics and real life stories of our characters. And then we have like a gaming channel that's purely about gaming, right? So it's like you wouldn't necessarily look at, we have guys right now at it's not E3, it's the major convention
E3
that's going on.
Is
E3 right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like we have guys there now playing. They're going to play Gears of War tonight and debut that, and it's kind of like, why is that? Ronda Rousey, one of our female superstars, was in Mortal Kombat as like Sonya Blade, right? So it's like, oh, you're from that thing. Why do I, it's funny, and I think kind of
Ronda Rousey, she's dreamy.
She's a dreamboat. She's awesome too. The funniest thing to me, and the last thing I'll do before we actually talk about what we're intended to talk about is like John Cena, one of our kind of stalwart, huge WWE superstars of the last 20 years. He's now doing movies. He was just announced as joining the Fast and the Furious franchise, and like he is doing a show that's premiering tomorrow called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, which is the TV show.
Yeah.
And like the kids who are the fifth graders, who are like the young kids, who are the 10, 11-year-olds, they kind of know him from wrestling, but they really know him from that meme from that radio station like 10 years ago. It's like, do you want to do the blah, blah, blah? Guess what? It's John Cena. Like that's how they know him, right? So
right.
If there's it's a really funny example of like how to speak to your audience based purely on like how they kind of identify with you. And this guy's been wrestling for 20 years, and like they know him from a meme that didn't even involve him. So it's just funny.
That's interesting. So I wanted to be, one more thing about your job, but I think it's kind of part of what we're going to talk about. So you, just to back up a little bit, one of the things you said is you guys have a lifestyle channel.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Like what is a WWE lifestyle?
So it depends, right? So I think the specific example is the Bella Twins, who are two of our female superstars, who kind of now it's 10 seasons ago, I guess, but it's 7 years ago, had an offshoot reality show on the E! Network called Total Divas. And after they kind of moved away from in-ring competition and we were seeing the success of Total Divas, like we just said, hey, listen, these two are very interesting people who have their own kind of brand completely outside of WWE now because of the audience that E brings. They are interested in female empowerment and working out and body image positivity, like stuff like that. And so we use that purely as a vehicle to tell their story and tell kind of like what it's like to be two women who have grown up or performed with or are associated with WWE. And then we also kind of just do like, man, like so much of our company's history is in keeping the characters as characters, right? And I just don't like, no one watches Batman with Christian Bale and it's like, that's not Batman, that's Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. You know what I mean? Like no one does that, right? And so we're seeing the success of like and I think the advent of social media is really what's doing this, because 20 years ago, a bad guy, actually not 20 years ago, 30 years ago, The Undertaker, people were like freaked out by The Undertaker. They're like, oh my gosh. Now he's got an Instagram account and he like posts pictures with like Post Malone and you know what I mean? So it's like
and all the funeral directors are like, woo!
Yeah. They're like, yeah, look out, we got a guy. Oh, he's just like us, So, so and I think that's cool because I think it just shows the 360. And if you don't, I can't tell you how many people come up to me and I go, oh, what are you doing here? And I'm in San Francisco now. Like, oh, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm here for work. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I work for WWE. Oh, is that the thing with the girls on E? Yeah, or is that
really
right? So,
whoopsie.
So it's not like you're. I guess what you're saying is it's not just wrestling anymore. It's they're branching out into other.
Yeah, because I just think that I think we hire as our superstars. Our superstars are like, you have to be a certain type of person to be in the entertainment industry regardless, right? But like the entertainers, right? And so you look at a guy, we have some of our guys who you look at it and like 20, 30 years ago, you say he's the big scary brute. But it also turns out that like his dad was a major softball like home run hero dude or whatever, right? So it's like there's like random these stories that people get really invested in, and it's why not tell them, right? It just builds brand equity, and it builds like an affinity for that person. So win-win.
Yeah. So I'd also like to point out one other thing about your job that's kind of interesting is that how many days this year have you traveled?
I mean, it's probably easier to say how many days I've been home, and that's probably like 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Those fish are dead. Those fish are just dead.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're goldfish, like in the bag. It's like, that's what they are.
Dude, write the cat off. They could survive a lot, but write the cat off.
So one of the things I wanted to, the reason we're doing this show, and we've talked a little bit about this on other episodes before, but the kind of the genesis of the idea was I had a very interesting discussion in one of the Facebook groups about kind of marketing, and this thing comes up every now and again where some Grand Lodge starts to advertise in some way. Either it's billboards, or which in the trade we call out of home, or they'll see a TV commercial for like with an actor playing Ben Franklin, or men looking very inspirational, and there's always a group of people who are very they react very negatively to it. And there's something kind of distasteful about it. And I thought that was really interesting because I think that there is a misconception. There's a bunch of misconceptions about marketing. That it's kind of like it kind of taints the fraternity, I guess, with the ointment of commerce, if you will. It's like it kind of cheapens us in some way, and so that's kind of why I wanted to explore this, because I don't think that marketing. First of all, marketing is not necessarily what you think it is, and I'm not sure it's such a bad thing. I think maybe the way we're doing it is not great. Mm-hmm. But I guess my first question for you, Nikki, is how would you define what is marketing to you?
So I'm gonna kind of just tinge every comment, I think, with Freemasonry, because I think to me it's the most valuable, and whatever. So honestly, to me, marketing is showcasing a person, a product, an idea to a potentially interested party, to get that party to invest itself into it. That's the easiest way I think of it. So like, I think if you look at Instagram ads, let's use that as an example. It's a very contemporary example, and something that it's kind of always ever present in my role. Like, what are you being marketed about? Like, what are people trying to sell to you? And so how do they do that? In what manner? And is it some case, is it just availability and understanding? So, hey, do you sleep poorly? Did you know there's a bed that can make you feel better when you sleep? That's information getting to you. Or is it like, hey, you constantly like pictures of, like, from Billionaire Watch Club, you like watching barbershop videos, and you follow Porsche. So like, you're either an aspiring person, you're either like aspiring wealthy, or you're physically looking to purchase something. So what do we sell you? Do we sell you like a nice tie, or do we sell you a nice belt or a pair of shoes? Like middle to expensive things that are still quality, but they're within reach, right? Because you're gonna say like, so this guy follows like a billionaire watch account with Rolex Daytonas that are $250,000, or like yachts that are $38 million or something like that. Like, chances are there's a very slim chance that person is actually one of the people who can afford those things. But they certainly enjoy thinking about it and potentially would like to look that way, right? So, bam, let's sell them something that's $400 as opposed to $400,000 because, like, chances are they'll buy it. Then I think the final thing is like the aspirational marketing, which I think a lot of is somewhat kind of how they phrase the example I just gave to you, but it's more so like the FOMO marketing, right? Like, look how awesome this thing is. You're not here, and I think it's the Fyre Fest example, right? Like that is the aspirational marketing to a T. Like, oh my gosh, beautiful babes, pigs, like Ja Rule or whatever, like, holy man, you want to be here for this. And I think that is how Freemasonry man to man, or I say man to man specifically, just kind of as a rib to someone else, but person to person, man to man specifically, and also to external parties. So I mean that, like, to the guy in your office or the guy that is a friend of a friend, and if you so choose to market on social and digital or in banner ads and television, whatever the case, or what are the things that people go to for fun in the summer? Barbecues, like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So my thing is that, so basically what you're saying is that it's all about positioning, right? It's you're a product or a service, and how do you position yourself in relationship to other products and services that are like you?
Yeah, but even to take it down another level, right? To go a little bit more basic. I mean, I'll go out on a limb here, and it's not a very thin limb, to say, Nikki, you don't sell anything.
You
don't sell.
I sell a lot of stuff.
No. What do you? You don't sell. You don't sell. Like, selling is like closing.
No.
Right?
I'm not. I mean, ABC. I'm always closing. But to the example like, I am not directly saying the main. I'm not, like, in some. But so here's the thing. In my position, no, I'm not telling you, hey, buy a ticket. What I'm telling you is, there is an amazing world here that you need to be a part of, because it's the best form of entertainment internationally, bar none, whatever.
Right.
Gotcha.
So, like,
okay. So what you're doing, though, is you're stimulating demand. And
right.
That's really what marketing
You're positioning.
is.
Right.
Well, positioning is part of it, right? Positioning
I agree.
Positioning is part of it, but what, at its most basic level, what marketing is it's stimulating the market. It's creating demand for what you have. Right, mm-hmm. whether that what you have is an entertainment franchise, or an expensive watch, or a yacht, or right. Anything really. It's about creating demand. And you said it yourself, right? Even though that there, most people who admire, like, for example, I had a very, very good friend of mine who was a brilliant Mason, right? Had this love for Ferrari for his whole life. Mm-hmm. And he could never afford to buy a Ferrari, but he had lots of Ferrari. He had a Ferrari watch. He had a Ferrari model. He had all these models and toys in his house that he displayed. He had books about Ferrari. Like, he loved the brand, right? But he never bought a Ferrari, right? So in that regard, like Ferrari was doing a good enough job at stimulating demand on his part, even though he could never really become a customer, right? But that's okay, because it creates a sense of exclusivity, because everybody wants a Ferrari, but only a few people can afford to buy a mm-hmm. Ferrari. That gives Ferrari some cachet. It gives it some mystery to it, and it makes people aspirational to think, like, maybe someday, if my ship comes in, I'll be able to buy that Ferrari, right?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I also think that, like, there are, the world is so wacky right now. And if I'm moving, I'm not just shifting on my seat. I'm trying to make sure I don't get plantar fasciitis. So I've been buying these lacrosse balls and just rolling them on the bottom of my feet. This is what my life has become. This is
just a lot of information. I'm
this
processing this one at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you would be able to get more access to if you became an executive producer and donated to the Patreon.
Nice. That's
you can get
nice.
on the
He's a marketer.
X-Marketing.
Deus Ex Machina X Library.
Don't market for us.
And
market
so
for us. We do that. We do that fine.
No, definitely. But I think if anyone wanted, you could just get the WWE Network and get 1 month free at $9.99. It's really great.
Right, there you go. Absolutely.
But more so that, like, I think the Ferrari example is like a really interesting one because, so I just went to the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona.
You have to say it like that.
A couple of weeks ago, and I was actually in the Ferrari garage as the race ended, right? And you're like, wow, man. And so one of the guys was talking to us, and he was like, oh, do you own a Ferrari? And he's like, we were like, no, but we're always working towards one. He goes, when you do, you'll come to Maranello, we'll build you one, you'll drive, it'll be great. And it's like, he is living in a world where, like, oh yeah, these dudes are obviously important enough to, like, they're definitely going to buy a Ferrari
here,
one day,
yeah,
right? And I'm like, it's a farce, right?
Yeah.
But it's too, like, man, like, that's those. It's so interesting to hear, like, these brands as and Freemason, like, it's Freemasonry has this thing too. It's like, you can, like, I always feel like I hear older generations or older, widows or whatever, they go like, when my husband was a Freemason back then, and what they did at the lodge was so important. Or you hear these older members, these 50, 60-year members, and they go and they're like, when it meant to be something, when you were the worshipful master, you were this, blah. And it's like, that is where I feel like our cachet is. And we seem to try to hearken back to something that in some cases existed, and in other cases, like, we're not doing it right. And we're not like, we're getting caught up on what everything meant, right? We're saying, like, this guy was so great because he was the worshipful master, when it was like, no, he got to be the master of the lodge because he excelled in so many different things that made him such a valuable asset. That is what made him that person to the lodge, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm sure you want to get to kind of the Freemason part of it in a little bit, but, like, that to me is where I think, like, we now say, God, this guy was so important because he was the master of the lodge in 41. Damn, what a great year. As opposed to, like, why it was so crazy that this guy is still being talked about from 1941,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that at its basic, right, there's a lot about kind of creating demand in the discipline of marketing. Like, one of them, if you go to business school, right, you take a marketing course, they're going to talk about something called the 4 Ps, right? So that stands for product, place, price, and promotion, right? And those are the 4 levers that you can pull to establish demand, right? So, for example, when you talk about place, right, where do Ferraris show up, right? They show up in, like, these amazing, mountain Swiss Alp windy highways, or in the south of France, and in front of your house. Jason lives in a really nice neighborhood. But like, also, like, where do you find a Ferrari dealer, right? You're not going to find them at the local mall. You're going to find them in the biggest cities on the high street, or, in very exclusive locations. Promotion, like, how do you position the product, right? And positioning is really about how you get people to think about your product relative to other products in the same category, right? So if we were positioning Freemasonry, how is Freemasonry different from the Rotary? How is Freemasonry different from your church? How is Freemasonry different from, how is Freemasonry different from your college fraternity, your Greek letter fraternity? Yeah, your Greek letter fraternity. That would be an element of positioning. But I think, so I want to ask you guys, like, why do you think that it gets such a bad rap in the fraternity? Like when people start talking about it, it just it creates this this hostility.
Because people can't tell that. All right, here's my theory is I blame it on the job market, right? And that recruiters they put ads in for positions called marketing position, when really what it is it's sales, right? And so they have blurred the lines between marketing and sales so much so that people think it's sales, and that's, well, you're as soon as you hear marketing, well, that's dirty. That's, we're nonprofit. We don't recruit. We're super chill. Listen, that's not what it is, and I blame that a lot on basically just like the want ads, right? Like, hey, we're looking for a marketer. No, you're not. You're looking for a salesperson. And so, like, people have mushed those things together. I mean, not that marketing and sales aren't very similar anyway, but they are really different. And so I think that's kind of where all that all comes from. But I think that Masons are really ultra gun shy about that stuff because of the no recruiting. I think that everyone is rightfully proud of the fact that we don't recruit. We don't ask people to join because one, we don't have to, and two, it ensures that people are joining for the right reason, that they actually want to. And so, like, I think that people are ultra sensitive about that. And so when you start saying, like, oh yeah, we're going to put ads on TV, ads sell me things. No, they don't. Ads don't close deals. Ads are awareness, and that's it. And so, like, people freak out about that stuff. Also, people all have their own closely held beliefs about what Masonry is, and they don't want you to, I guess, I don't want to say misrepresent, but that's kind of what it is, right? You don't want you to misrepresent it by, your ad doesn't reflect what I think of Masonry.
Can you shoot me? What are those 4 P's again? Price, position, what is the other thing?
Product, price, place, promotion.
Yeah, product, place, price, promotion.
God.
Product, place, price, promote. Because I'm going to tell you how we do all 4 things wrong. Product, place,
there you go.
Price, promotion.
Got it. Product, price, place, promotion. We got to get you like one marketing class, for God's sakes.
Man, here's the thing.
You have a master's degree. degree.
Sure do.
Yeah.
And potentially plantar fasciitis. So, here's the thing, guys.
He has a master's degree in plantar fasciitis.
Hey, on Facebook, Jeff Dyer popped in to just say, freeze a water bottle, use that on your feet.
Yeah, I even went on Amazon and bought like a boot that keeps.
No, that doesn't work. You know what? After the show, I'll hook you up.
Snake oil.
Snake oil. I'll hook you up.
Snake oil.
Yeah, I'll hook you up. That doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Okay. Well, I'm enrolling.
You know what does work? Wait, you know what does work?
Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Grimoires.
Amputating grimoires, yes.
Which you can get
if
you become an executive producer for X-Oriente, dude.
It's incredible how easy one slides right into that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Libicus ex patronus.
Okay,
that's what it's called. Right.
So here's the thing. Can I?
Please.
Please go.
Please, doctor.
Okay. So the product is Freemasonry, right? Which I think is difficult because, again, and Jason kind of alluded to it, but the product being like, what is Freemasonry? We still do not have a good answer to that question. It's an age-old fraternity, a society with secrets, blah, blah, blah. The English can do whatever kind of Netflix special they want to do. No one knows what it is. It's the inner door to the outer temple. It's esoteric. It's fraternity. It's blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't have a good answer to that. So, like, we're selling a product that is 500 million different things to 6 million people, right? Okay. Product. Bam. Place. You're looking like it again. It's not the same thing, and like where we're going for and where we're choosing men from differs everywhere. Now, like no one saw the other show, so they don't know what kind of. I'm going to say I'm a metropolitan Freemason. I am
right. Wait.
Slicker Freemason. Go.
Right. Wait for a second though, because place actually. So place can actually be a physical place, but place could also be your placement in the marketplace, meaning what's your position. Totally. So are you high end, low end, that kind of stuff. So
therein lies another issue, right? So like,
right. So it's layered.
Like, so let's look at it on the first level of physical location. So like, where are our physical location buildings? You go to the House of the Temple and you're like, holy moly, this is beautiful, and anything that's this beautiful must be important. Or you go to a random lodge building in a local town and it looks bad and you're like, that looks like a crack house. I don't know that I want to be a part of that. Then you actually look at placement in the market. Like, no matter what you say, a portion of Freemasonry has to be entertainment. Like, what is the number one complaint of people who don't show up to meetings? They're boring and useless. So like, why am I going to give my time for this external thing that I don't need to go to? And I'm bound only by my word, which, I mean, let's face it, in 2019, yikes. Like, it's not entertaining. So its place, like, it doesn't really have a place for me, right? And let's even be less pessimistic, but it's like, okay, what do you do at a Masonic meeting? And you're like, we do rituals. What does that mean? Like, I can't really tell you. It's like a morality play.
Yeah.
Interested?
Yeah.
So like, okay. So
totally.
Which is fine, but it's also too like that.
Right.
Price. I think we go to price and we say like that this goes to I feel like we're charging just enough but not enough to get who we want, right? And that is to say, again, I live in New York City and stuff in New York City is expensive. So if I'm going to pay for entertainment, I am going to expect my entertainment to be expensive.
But it better be good for the money that you're paying.
So if I go to a wine bar and I'm spending $400 at a wine bar, I better be drinking delicious wine, right? And great cheeses and whatever. If
you get a lot of turning leaf.
A
lot of turning leaf. $400, dude. I'm just saying.
Whispering Angel.
So good.
It's like Whispering Angel. That goes back to the ASMR, which didn't happen before the show.
Yeah.
But then again,
beautiful.
It's you go to that and it's like, okay, if I go to a lodge in Florida or some parts of Texas and it's like, it's not expensive, but they don't need to charge as much, but the experience is as good, like, that's different. Or the value on the things that are valued in New York or Washington or San Francisco or Chicago or Los Angeles are just different, that there's a disparity between that, and it is what it is. And then promotion, it's like, I was just made a KYCH, right? And it's, you kind of go through this thing and you're like, man, it's got the ceremony of being like, dude, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. Now we're just saying, hey man, you're generally a good dude, pound, you're a KYCH, right? But like,
right.
But that being said, like, when you actually scrap that example, I have a better example. So like going to, when we were talking about this, I thought of like three experiences rather. When I joined my Greek letter fraternity, it was like rush night, the final nights of when you're like, potentially becoming a member or what a potential becoming an invited member or an invitee to, potentially join the fraternity. Some guy, this guy, David, he was a year older and he was like, man, why I chose Pike over another fraternity was because I saw this guy who I talked to and he was so focused on going to law school and he had a better SAT score and like he took an LSAT exam and he had like a better LSAT score. So like I was like, damn, that guy's got his stuff together. I like that dude and I want to be like that dude, right? I look at it like when we to our DMLAs, right? I'm not a DMLA, had no experience with DMLA. I don't think I've never actually I walked into a demolay ceremony by accident in South Dakota once. Like, I don't have any whatever. But it's like, I worry that my biggest worry with demolay, from the little I know about it, is that you're like forcing on to a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old, like, Jacques Demolay was the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, and he died. He's dead. And it's just like, holy shit. Like, sorry, like, these kids are like, you're 15, you're 17, you're 18, you're 21 to be like, hey, here, wear this cloak and like take an oath on a Bible. That's like a lot of stuff to say to a kid. And like, I fear that because the mentors and the dads are Freemasons, they fall into the traps that Freemasons do. Like, this guy is a past Grand Master, or he's a past High Priest, or a past Master. And it's like, what in the blue hell does that mean to a kid? And then you're putting, like, you're already imprinting onto them that, like, the title is the important thing and not all the work that goes onto it. And, like, that the collar that the kid wears is important because of this long-standing tradition of this collar meaning something. But, like, if the group is not good, they just say this collar is super important and you need to understand how important this collar is. So, it's like, what's going on? So I think that's, to me, like, that is where we're really disparate. Or I think when we go to new members, and my third example is, like, my Mother Lodge in DC is kind of the festive board is our calling card. I would say that the festive board is our biggest promotion because it's the public thing that you could see that's quasi-Masonic, that is still has some kind of ritual aspect to it. And there's still, like, people wear their jewels and their we have, like, just the rope jewels. We don't have, like, the big stuff. So we wear them to dinner. And it's like, hey, why is that guy wearing that thing on his neck or around his neck or whatever, or on his, whatever, chest? And it's like, oh, that means that guy does this. And they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, that seems like this guy's the marshal. What does that guy do? Oh, he's, like, in charge of leading the ceremony. Oh, it seems like a kind of a big deal. And then they know one little thing about the person, and then they interact with the person as, like, a human over dinner, and they're like, wow, that guy has a big responsibility in Lodge and is also super cool. Like, that seems like a no-brainer. And that's what I love about how we, quote-unquote, recruit, because we're selling personality. We're not selling, like, man, I don't want to tell you this, but I'm a knight commander in the Court of Honor.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
Hey.
Right. Not only that, right. Let me let you in on something. I was the master of my lodge once.
Hey,
right.
Hey, girl,
I ran that thing.
Hey, girl, I don't know if you want to know, but they have to designate 8 letters behind my name.
Right. Here's the worst part is that...
And a degree sign.
You're making fun, but I guarantee this right now. You have told a girl that. I guarantee it.
And no, because you know what it is? They go to me and they say, like, what's that? What is this ring? They think this is a Masonic ring. I'm like, no, I'm just a weird guinea. Right. But, like, I get the 32nd degree ring. I'm like, oh, like, it's a... Do you know what, like, Freemasons are? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, this is just going to be a weird rabbit hole that I don't want to get into. So just...
Right, there you go. So
I'm not married. I'm not married.
So all right, like, so one of our friends just popped in. It was Adam Tager, popped in on Facebook and commented. This is a good point. He said, we don't do a good job focusing on the work as opposed to the position. You don't need to be a PM to be a good Mason, which is your point, right? And that's that's part of that's the sort of part of placement. I would guess.
Yeah,
a little bit. I think part of it is that we all have this sort of fantasy about the Masons being this secret society, And even though we, to the outside world, we say, and this is the truth, right? We're not a secret society. You can find us in any phone book. We put stickers on our cars. We wear rings and stuff like that. We're not at all secret. We do have some secrets, right? But I think we cling to that romance, right? And so the thing about a secret society is you got to find them. You have to ingratiate yourself to them, right?
Right.
And
read
if there's
Foucault's Pendulum. Good Lord.
What's that?
Foucault's Pendulum. It's where I learned how to find secret societies.
Right. Yeah. So I think because of that, I think that's one of the roots of the distaste that we have for marketing, right? Is that if we're such a great secret society, we shouldn't need to market. They should be beating down our door.
Right.
But the sad truth is they're not, right? Like the very fact that the girl you were talking to said, no, I don't know what a Freemason is, right? Look, that's not atypical, right?
In all fairness, neither do I. But go ahead.
I mean, I have to explain that to people I work with every day. Like, what is that? What is that? Right? My grandfather was one of those. What is it? It's.
So I think here's a little bit of that starts. I think a little bit of that starts. Like, it's an internal issue as well, right? Like, so. And I've been kind of preaching this in my brain and to like two people over lunch, and that's it. But like 2 points of which are, I don't know that internally we promote or manage membership well. And what I mean by that is, like, I think that there is no one, and at least I've heard that there was people in Pennsylvania, men in Pennsylvania, some in New York who were, some in DC for years, but they've now since passed. Like, there's no one king making, and there's no one saying like, you are really, really good at this. So if your Freemasonry encompasses Grand Lodge activities and you're a biblical kind of scholar and you really, really like that, and maybe you just really like the Royal Arch, like, you could be the most active and great there. Or if you're like, hey, listen, I'm the outer porch to the inner temple kind of dude. Great. Well, listen, I think SRICF may be good for you. Or you're like, hey, listen, I'm just purely interested in research and like to go to lodge, but I really just want to read. Okay, here's the deal. I have a research organization and a research body that kind of operates as a lodge that'll suit you well. No one's king making anymore. And I think because we are so, like, in some cases we are, maybe because of the composition of membership, but like, we are so badge hungry and like, yeah, I joined AMD 15 years ago. I don't really know what it is, but whatever. I'm a past whatever, right? And it's just like, for what? What?
Yeah,
why do you need to be everything?
So
right?
I think that happens because we're not, like when you look at sort of the peak experiences that Masonry offers. Once you get through those initial 3 degrees, right, acquiring those honors is about all we have left, right, in terms of like, and keep in mind what I'm saying is peak experiences, right? So you go on any Masonic, discussion board, any Facebook group composed of Masons, and you'll hear the same complaint over and over again. All we do is read the minutes, pay the bills, read the minutes, pay the bills, cold spaghetti on a paper plate, that the experience, right, and that kind of goes to product, right, and there's a definite interlinking between marketing and product quality, right? Because you one of the key rules of marketing is you can market a bad product, but only for a little while. Like, people are going to,
it's a bait and switch. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
it's black tie on and plastic dishware.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I think that part of, what's really funny is that we talk about the secret society thing and all that stuff, but like on a whole, right? Freemasonry in society is looked at as a secret society, sort of, kinda, and part of the problem is that we love that. we dig the hell out of that because we're members, right?
Yeah.
And so you're telling me Freemasons, they secretly rule the world. Indeed we do. Yeah, I love it. You're pumping my ego about how I'm special, and you expect me to go, no, we're not like that.
See, like
but that's a problem, right? Because exactly. So that's exactly where I'm going, Nikki. Is that like, here's the problem. The problem is that's the bait and switch. That's the bad promotion, right? Because I've just lied to you. I've totally taken in your pseudo compliment or whatever and been like, yeah, I am part of a secret society and it's awesome. It's so cool. We do the coolest stuff. And then when I take you to my lodge and you finally get in the lodge, you're initiated and you go to your first meeting and they read the minutes and that's it. And they're done. And then they pay the bills and you go,
and I think
I literally could have gotten this by reading Robert's Rules of Order by myself in my room.
100%.
Yeah. So Abe Metz, I just want to point out, Abe Metz in our chat room pointed out something interesting. He said some of the invitational bodies are very interesting and offer some great value, but the brother has to get involved, not just join and go through the initiation into that body and that's it. Now, Abe, you're absolutely right, but here's the problem, and this is, I think, the problem with Masonry, is that by the time we get to the place where we're in some kind of position to be able to affect policy in how do we reach people who are outside the fraternity to create that demand and make them want to come into the fraternity, we are so far into it that we don't see the world like they see the world, right? We see the world from the inside. We see the value that Masonry has already given us because we've already gone through the degrees. We've already worked our way through the chairs. We've already joined the appendant bodies. We understand the value, and we can't, for various reasons. Some of them are because we've promised not to reveal them. Some of them are because they're really, really hard to explain to somebody who's not experienced them, right? We have a really, really hard time of communicating the value that the fraternity provides. And so as a result, when people ask us, it sounds very like to like a modern young person. And look, I work at an agency that's full of those kind of guys. And a lot of them would make great Masons, and I think they would get a lot out of it. But like trying to get them to like commit to, well, you got to come to lodge and, be in this kind of dumpy building for, 3 or 4 months and get to know the guys. And, it's like, in a way, it's kind of like college fraternity. You got to go through rush, right? You got to, and then you petition and you got to go through this whole thing. It's a lot for somebody who's on the outside to go
100%.
On faith, right? They don't really understand because there's no, like, they don't see Masonic life from the inside. If they could see it from the inside, they would be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I want that."
Dude, if you want to buy a TV, you go to the store, you look at the TV, you can see everything. It's all there, right? You've got other TVs that you can compare TVs against, and you go, "All right, I feel like I'm making a good choice because I'm buying that TV that I've seen is better than these other 2 TVs of similar price." That's what I'm going to do. But Freemasonry offers none of that. Yeah. You're blind walking in for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, but I think, again, that goes to the point of, like, you need to sell the people you need to have good people in a lodge. And, like, that goes to the point of, like, man, we have, that's place. We have dumpy buildings. Yeah. We have dumpy buildings. We have, like, not cool members. We have, like, garbage, everything. And you're like, yeah, no wonder why this sucks. Why don't we just shut this down? And it's honestly, to me, like, the appendant bodies are an interesting example to look at, because the more and more I look at Freemasonry, honestly, in 2 different categories. Sometimes I do honestly believe that there are words and phrases that are hints to esoteric teachings, and that I would never, ever have any interaction with had I not become a Freemason. And I think Rosicrucianism is a perfect example of that, right? Like, but I also view Freemasonry as a civil society that we just don't have, that, again, runs parallel to normal life. Because, like, I have a drawer full of breast medallions and collars and sashes and swords that, like, if I went to a black tie dinner, if I was in the UK, I would wear my Excellent Order of the British Empire, because it's a civil society, it's a civil honor, and it makes sense and whatever. But, like, I wouldn't go wearing my SRICF jewel to dinner with friends or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so I think that's where the appendant bodies, honestly, should really serve. And I mean, like, the invite appendant. I don't mean like the appendant bodies as in like the Royal Arch and the Cryptic Council, Knights Templar, Scottish Rite. I mean, like, honestly, if you're a Holy Royal Arch Knight Templar priest, like, you have to jump through so many different things to become a Holy Royal Arch Knight Templar priest. And at that point, you're like, I am now a past commander. So that means I've gone through all of the York Rite, including the Craft Lodge, the Royal Arch, the Cryptic Council, the Knights Templar. I've served as a commander of my Knights Templar commandery. Now I'm a past commander, which probably means you've served as a past high priest or been super duper active in those bodies to get that. And now you're going to join this organization, and it's like, well, do I have to do something else here now too? Like, was it not just good enough donating money to my lodge or donating time to my chapter or council or commander? I was like, do this shit now too? Like, what else do we, you know what? So that's where I feel like those should be marketed as, like, they exist as an honor, and they exist as, like, their value proposition is like hey man, here's a cool thing that not a lot of people know about, but, like, you've done the work, so I'm going to give you another bottle.
Right. But again, that's I want to focus on, like, outside the fraternity, right?
Okay.
That's inside baseball, which is cool, but
But I think that goes to the point of, like, how.
But that's a frustration once you get in. But that's a frustration, right? Is because once you get in, you figure out that it's Nikki, what Nikki's talking about, and you go, oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the bait and switch, right? And so the problem is that as you go in blind for this stuff, you don't realize that it's not, all sitting around talking about esoterics and, there's like you're given secret knowledge or anything like that. What it really is what Nikki's saying. Dude, you've got to get through 9 chairs with, 45 parts of memorization. In total, it's going to take you 7 years, and then they're going to give you a really nice jewel that you can wear in your breast pocket, and that's it, right? And that you're able to wear that jewel then to 2 things maybe in the year, one of which you're going to have to travel a long distance to get to.
So what you guys are describing is something called Metcalfe's law, right? Which is network effects. And Metcalfe's law says that the value of a network is the square of the number of elements of that network, right? So Facebook is he's writing this down. Facebook is valuable because everybody's on it, right?
Okay.
I got tic-tac-toe.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
So my point in saying this is that if more men were Masons, right? Like, imagine it's for a second, it's 1925 and every 5th man is a Mason. You walk in and at least 1 out of 5 people in that room is going, oh, holy crap, he's a Knight Templar, a Royal Arch Knight Templar priest, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go.
And that means something. Something, right?
Yeah.
But in this day and age, right, because our network has shrunk so much and continues to shrink, it doesn't have the same cachet that it once does. So even if you get through all of that stuff, even if you're a complete, like put it this way, like a guy like Art de Hoyos, right, who's like an international Masonic Freemason star, right, probably couldn't get arrested in any other venue, any other place in the country, right? If he just walked into, like, a nice restaurant in LA, like, nobody would know who he was, right? Like, so,
I don't.
right? So
Totally.
I think that there's that aspect of it, which I think kind of it's a neutralizing factor with everything that happens once you hit the door of the lodge, right? And so I wanted to kind of come back to some kind of basic marketing, because when you look at advertising, right? There's really in the world there's two kinds of advertising. There's what's called above the line advertising, right? Or in the agency biz we call it ATL. And then there's below the line marketing. And above the line marketing is like basically it's messages placed in media, right? So above the line marketing traditionally is out of home, print, and television and radio, right? Those four types of media are considered above the line. And then you have below the line. And Nikki, what you do is considered in ad agencies to be below the line, right? Because you're dealing in a lot more things like experiential stuff. You're posting to Instagram. You're doing kind of social media. Maybe you're doing event marketing, right? You're doing a lot of these things that don't involve like making a 30-second film and sticking it on a television commercial to be to be interrupted. And it's more of a pull kind of thing rather than a push kind of thing, right? And so that's the first thing that I want to say is that I think that from an ATL perspective, I don't think ATL does Masonry any favors, right? So I would agree with people who sort of criticize.
We don't do it very well.
We don't do it very well because we can't afford to. It's so
Correct.
expensive. It's so expensive, right? Yeah. So the idea of like you're going to do a 30-second commercial on the virtues of Masonry, and then you're going to put it on a channel once, what was it? I can't remember what was was it Maryland that did a Super Bowl, local Super Bowl ad?
They did, right? They did. And so wait, now let's go back for a second because Eric, this is a good one. So for ATL advertising, and you work at a fairly large firm, but I would actually probably call it about a medium-sized firm.
No,
right?
It's pretty big.
So
I
know it's big.
It's one of the larger ones.
Well, all right. So how much is a basic ad to produce a television 30-second ad? How much does it cost if it's going to be any good and it's going to run places?
$1 million. I mean,
exactly.
that's
exactly right.
Yeah.
That's bare bones. That is nothing.
I would say bare bones. You could get away with something for maybe like $500,000 if you're doing it really, really well. I mean, we've done stuff for under $1 million, but it's hard to do, and you really have to you really have to sort
everything
of
has to hit.
You gotta like shoot in LA with a bare bones crew, and you're really kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of production, right? Because you've got so much to do. You've got to, first of all, you've got the agency fees. You've got to write the commercial. You've got to, you've got to then go into production.
And here's the thing: is that really the big expensive thing about doing ATL stuff is that you've got to pay the really, really, really smart people who are the copywriters, the ad writers, who will sit there and strategize and go, all right, let's break this thing into 1 million pieces, and we will spend our lives for months trying to figure out what the best position for this is, and then we have a strategy that's a sometimes over years of here's how we're going to position ourselves and this product and the message that we're gonna send.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears. Let me tell you the truth. Let me tell you the truth.
But
the
that's
truth
expensive.
is that's not where the money goes.
Wow.
The actual agency fees are relatively low. Where the money goes is media, right? So here's the thing: it's not enough to spend $1 million and make that film. Now you got to get in front of people's eyeballs, and the way you do that is you rinse and repeat, right? So it's not it's not a question. Think about like Eloquist, right? You see Eloquist like every 15 minutes, right? On some cable channels, right? And so like that every time they broadcast that, right? That's like, depending on who they're reaching and how valuable that customer is, that could get really, really expensive. And so you get like a pharmaceutical company will spend millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I'd say at least half of that budget, if not more, is media cost, right? Which is why BTL is it like companies are flocking to it because number one, it's cheaper, right? The media cost is lower. Number two, like to do a Facebook ad and stuff like that, exactly who you're targeting, right? And you can pay per click, right? And you can measure it, which you can't really, it's hard. It's hard to do that on television, right? So my point is that when we think of marketing and we get all like, we get all like up in arms about it, What we're really getting up in arms about is ATL, because that's what we see. That, we
Right.
see that billboard, we're just like, ugh, but that's the ATL, right? We don't see any of the BTL, and frankly, we don't do very much of it, right? So
No.
Richard Vere says, word of mouth is the best marketing, and that's absolutely true. But to do that, to get word of mouth, you have to coordinate that, right? You have to create awareness, right? So and this is sort of the marketing thing I want to talk about, and then I'll open it back up to you guys. Is that there's this thing called the marketing funnel, right? So it's called a funnel because at the top of the funnel, right, the opening of the funnel is really, really big, right? Right? It's the marketing funnel. Nikki's making strange gestures for the people who are just listening.
It's a different funnel, Nikki.
So at the top of the funnel, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create awareness for who you are and what your value proposition is. That's all you're trying to do at the top of the funnel, right? People are not in the market, right? But you need to make them aware. So in other words, like the fact that I'm seeing cholesterol medication, for example, right? I don't take cholesterol medication. I may never have to take cholesterol medication, but dang it, the day that my doctor says, you know what, I think you need to be on cholesterol medication, those pharma companies want me to have a brand name in my head and say, hey, what about Lipitor or Scuppity-Doo or whatever that particular drug is, right? That's awareness. So at that very top level, and the thing is, in order to create awareness, you got to reach a lot of people. A lot of people. Everybody has to know who you are, right? Even the people who are not in the market, right? Because then what's going to happen is someone's going to sit around and be like, I wish there was something I could do that was just more meaningful than like going to the bar review. Hey, have you looked at Masonry? You should try. You should, right?
I wish I could listen to someone read minutes.
Right. That's top of the funnel, right? The next level into the funnel, it gets a little narrower, and that's something called active consideration, right? And that's where people are they're actually looking for something. They're actually shopping. So in the at the top level, you might be seeing Toyota after Toyota after Toyota after Toyota ad, and you don't care because you're not in the market for a car. But the day that you get into the market for a car, hey, I saw that the Toyota looked pretty cool. Let's go check it out, right? That's called active consideration, right? And that requires a different kind of advertising, because now what you want to say is whereas the advertising before was about awareness, it was about here's who we are and what we're about. The next level in is here's why we're better than the competition, right? Because now you're starting to, right? And then the third level of the funnel is what's called it's like you're getting ready to purchase. So now you're comparing, now you're pricing things out. You're looking at like, how much does this give me versus how much does that give me? And in other words, like if I'm kicking tires, maybe I've gone to a lodge a couple times and I've met the guys and I'm interested in, maybe I've gone a couple times, and what do we do as a fraternity to keep that interest up? Very little, if anything. And then finally, the bottom of the funnel are people who are looking to purchase. So they're looking for the best terms. They're looking to finance. They're looking for, where can I get it? How do I get it? Where do I shop? Where do I go? They're ready to pull the trigger, right? And your marketing has to be there, with some kind of experience that makes it frictionless to pull the trigger. And that's the marketing funnel, right? So at every level, I think as a fraternity, from a marketing standpoint, we fail, right? We don't have the kind of awareness that we need to draw a big enough pool of men so that by the time you get to the bottom of the funnel, you've got a pretty robust funnel, right? And so what happens is that what I always said is not every man should be a Mason, but every man should want to be a Mason, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Right.
So this is just gonna go into I'm mad as hell. I'm like that guy yelling at the cloud, the old guy yelling at the cloud. So like at the top of the funnel, what do people see? Tacky stickers on the back of people's cars that like, I just don't know how anyone can join an organization where they hear Latin phrases like aude vide tace, and like they're like, yup, here, no, be silent, awesome. Yo, let me go on Fratline and buy 1,000 stickers. Like that's what our life is now. And like that is right now, that is the garbage that people see. I look at tie knots like crazy. Like I look at the way people do their ties.
Like
yes,
tie knots.
Like
Okay.
like the way that people do their tie. And to me, like I love when I go to lodge and I see guys with really nice bow ties, or their knot is really, really good. And honestly, Freemasonry has taught me how to tie a better tie knot, because I've seen examples of people who like hold themselves and want to know what looking nice is like. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I ever trust someone to tell me like, oh yeah, we have like the temple that you're behind right here, like that image, right? Like that's selling me something. That's the top of the funnel. I'm like, wow, they must take this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and by the time you get to active consideration, like we're not even fighting. Like we're not even at, I kind of know what a Toyota is. Like I know what a Toyota car is. I just don't want to buy one yet. I'm not really in the market for a car. We're like, I know what Freemasonry is, or I think I kind of know what it is, and I want to stay as far away from it as possible. Like that's what we're fighting against now, because we're doing it to ourselves.
I don't think they. You know what? I think you're giving us a lot of credit, Nikki, because like what you're saying is like people will actively avoid it. That's totally not true. It's way worse than that. It's indifference. They think of us. You know, Abe Metz popped in and said, "Brothers can't explain the difference between Lions Club, Rotary, and Freemasonry." Listen, people in general don't know the difference between Lions Club, Rotary, Freemasonry. They just don't care, and they don't care to figure out. They literally just go
what either of them are.
Right.
I don't think that anyone knows what they are.
Right, and so like that's the thing, right? Is that that's a huge place where we fall down, and we could be doing such a better job. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
I also think that is okay. Like every man should want to be a Mason. Like, I get it. But like, this is not for everyone, and that's okay. Like,
I
know plenty of cool dudes who I would have loved to have been in my Greek letter fraternity in college, but they weren't, and they were just as valuable as an asset, as a friend, as possible. Like, I think what I fear when we do like this, you know, if you want to call it above the line advertising, or you do these huge billboards or whatever, it's like, it's just like a calling card for like, you're a dude, let's join, be a Freemason.
Sure.
And it's like,
right.
I don't.
Sure.
Don't go like the word of mouth is great because it allows you to have a conversation. I get it. Granted, as like a mass marketing tool, it's not sustainable. But this also goes to like, we should probably close a bunch of lodges everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is not the topic of the conversation.
Think about
if I were Grandmaster for a day.
But think for a second about how you do your work, right? So like I follow your Instagram feed, right? And I look at it with lots and lots of envy, right? And I look at that and I go, yeah, he looks like he's having a really good time, and you know, he's hanging out with like really cool people, and he's going to really cool places. And how do I get me some of that? Now, here's the thing. I know that I'm at a place in my life, at a point in my life, I will never ever be in that world. That's okay.
Also, right. But also, and I'll say this too, is that I've been with Nicky at his job, and he works his ass off.
Yeah.
So what you see is literally a snapshot of a couple minutes.
He's
right,
good.
Of course.
He's good
right.
at his
That's
job,
exactly
Jason.
what I'm talking about. Exactly. But the thing is that, you know, when I've been there, I watch him running around backstage, going nuts, going like, "Why are you just standing here, you idiot? You know, go do this. You're supposed to be with this camera person doing that with this talent, and go." And like,
yeah.
And so. But that's a lot of hard work, and you are.
I don't necessarily need to know how the sausage is made, right?
Well,
no, totally, and I think that's.
But isn't that part of what we're talking about? Because I think that it's really important to understand that your marketing needs to connect with the actual product, because we can't just market, the temple that's sitting behind Eric, and deliver the crappy bland hotel room that Nikki's sitting in. And so
it's a very nice. I have a clean bed over here.
No, but but Jason, what you're talking about is stage 3 of the funnel. Right?
Yeah.
At the top of the funnel, I want people to look at Masonry and be like, that looks interesting. Dude, that looks like something I would I
don't know.
And totally, but so here's the thing, so my Instagram page is obviously curated and it's like moody and whatever. It's not real. But
right.
But there's also too but I guess more to the point of well, you post a picture of yourself at a black tie affair and it's like, wow, what a life. But it's also too yes, you need to know that hours and hours of work, which turns into money and months and months and years of money saved, allows you to buy that nice black tuxedo that allows you to get the money. But that I understand it's a difficult proposition, right? And it's but I don't think it's difficult for us to tell those stories of I just don't get how you could pass in your lodge room all of the pictures of the past masters, right? And how one can be like this, and you just leave it like that, right? And that goes to the point of you don't care about your image, and then that goes to you probably don't care about the way that your lodge looks to the outside world, and that goes to the top of the funnel. And then when someone comes to go to a dinner, you don't go out of your way to make them feel comfortable or to try to speak to them on a level where they're this is something that's worth my time, right? So you go and you say there's a new guy, and say you're a member of one of those lodges who reads the minutes and has the cold spaghetti dinner and whatever. You don't sell them on the opportunity to make the lodge better. You sell them on, we don't do that because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? You get a lot of guys on these discussion boards who will defend it by saying, well, it's the inner qualities of a man that qualify you to be a Mason, not the outer qualities, right? And to that I say, that's in a way that's a load of crap, because that's true once you're inside the fraternity, but to the outside looking in, right? I will never get to that point, right, where I'm thinking about the inside of me and how Freemasonry is going to affect that if I don't understand enough about the outside to move me down that funnel, right? And so
yeah.
Just like you what you just said, Nikki, which is that your Instagram feed is highly curated, right? Why is that, right? Because it's important. It's important to curate that. It's important to present that
right.
to present it in its best light, right? And then once you get down into it, then you can start to look at the trade-offs. But at the top of the funnel, I'm not ready for trade-offs yet. I don't want to know trade-offs. I want to know I want to aspire. I want to know what this thing can offer me that I'm not getting now. And then once I'm interested, then you can move me down the funnel.
And that inner quality, external quality, listen, I'm not saying everyone needs to. I don't want to go to lodge if you smell. Take a shower. Is that me saying? Oh, I'm looking only at the external and not the internal. Yeah. You don't care enough about your bodily health that you smell, and I don't want you here. And should you be placed? And if you're a member of the lodge and placed into circumstances where you can't shower because of whatever, you have about 1,005 things you should be doing rather than coming here. So those are, to me, that is all shielding all of the insecurities of this person just doesn't take themselves seriously enough to care about this. I don't believe it's a volunteer organization, right? Sure. At its core, it is a volunteer. No one is telling you to be here. But should you decide to be here and take the same oath that I took, listen, man, you're going to do X, Y, and Z to market and to be a good representation.
You're still choosing to buy in.
You're choosing to buy in.
Right.
So like, no matter what,
it might be a volunteer, but you chose.
Yeah, but you chose. So like, if you want to volunteer to be here and take the oath and be a master mason, like, and you're gonna say like, oh, like I'm a Freemason. Look at my huge lapel pin. Like, guess what? You're now representing me, right? I find the lion's share of our members, their behavior completely embarrassing. Mm-hmm. Completely embarrassing. And I find the like placement of how they speak to people, some of the stuff they post publicly, like, this is the most public I am with my Masonic affiliation, because I feel like both of you are hold yourself in public and are reputable, and I can say like, yeah, I trust Jason and Eric to, when people meet them, they're not like, oh, these two dudes are animals and I don't want to be associated with them. But like, I see some of the stuff that people post on Facebook, and it's like, I can't be here.
Yeah,
I've left Masonic
you should have
meetings
seen. You should have seen Jason and I before glasses and beards. It was
even so. Yeah. Well, guess what? You guys got away with it before the internet was cool. So you got away with it, right? Like, cool. But like, man, it's there's like, and that is to me all levels of that funnel. That is to me like active consideration. Like, yeah, I could join, but then again, this guy's going on this like anti whatever it is tirade, and you're like.
So Richard Veer popped into the chat and said, and this is exactly what you're talking about, Nikki. He said, "Crazy idea. Let's all strive to be the men that our society looks up to. Sell the man, not the fraternity."
Okay, so I hear that a lot, and I have a slight problem with it. And Richard, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I don't, on the surface of it, disagree with it. But I would say that's what we've been doing for the last 40 years, and it hasn't worked. Right, we've been saying, oh, Neil Armstrong was a Freemason, George Washington was a Freemason, right? Because, and the reason we do that, here's why. The reason we do that is because we don't have people close enough to us that we can point to and be like, that guy, he's a Mason, right? The people that we look up to in society, we're not attracting them, we're not recruiting them.
It's true,
right? So we have to kind of rest on our laurels, right? And so I hear this a lot, like we should all just be the light we want to seek. Well, that's great, but unless we're doing it in a deliberate way and being mindful of the fact that every action that we take is not for the inside of the fraternity, but for the outside of the fraternity and how people look at us. I mean, there's a certain amount of distaste, and I understand it. There's a certain amount of distaste that we all have to feel like we should care what other people think of us, right? But that's incredibly important to getting people to want to be like us, right? And so yes, should we all be like exemplary gentlemen? Absolutely, we absolutely should. But we need to teach guys how to do that, and we need to hold them accountable and hold standards and say, you know what, that may play. There's one of my favorite story. I'm a big Winston Churchill fan, and one of my favorite stories about him is that I think it was the foreign secretary at one point, or somebody in Parliament had insulted him. I think it was the Lord, the Lord of the Privy or something like that. Some government official in Parliament offended him. And he walked out and went back to his house in London, and he was literally on the toilet, right? And the guy came to the door to apologize because all the men in Parliament kind of went up to this guy afterward and said, you can't do that. You cannot personally insult somebody, right? You can insult their policies, you can insult their viewpoint, but you don't get personal. That's not what we do here. That's not behavior befitting a member of Parliament. and he felt bad about it, and he wanted to go apologize. And so he went to Winston Churchill's house, and he knocked on the door, and his valet answered the door, and he said, I'm here to apologize to Sir Winston. I'm really sorry. He's shown into the foyer, and the valet goes upstairs, and there's Winston Churchill in the water closet or whatever they call it, with the bathroom. And he says, "Sir, you have a visitor. Who is it?" Tells him who it is. He says, "This is long pause." And he says, "Tell him to go away. I can only take one shit at a time." Right. And so it's kind of like, and so I think that we have to kind of, that there's a certain standard that we have to sort of recognize and be aware of. Hey, Jason, I think we lost your video feed.
Oh yeah, definitely frozen.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
What's
nice is that I've got that
filter.
Yeah. By the way, I think my favorite part is that I've got a kind of Weekend at Bernie's smirk when it froze, and that makes me super happy.
That's really funny.
There you go, folks. Weekend at Bernie's smirk.
So let me because we're a little bit over anyway. But let me ask you guys, like, how would we reconcile this? I mean, I guess the first question that I have for both of you is, do we need marketing in Masonry? And then the other question is and I've heard this a lot on social media discussions and things like that, is, people say, well, we should get our house in order first, then market. And so the question is should we be marketing at all? B, should we get our house in order first and then market? Or C, should we be doing both at the same time?
Jason?
I go house in order, then market. Because I think that you have to clean up, make sure everything is right before you invite people into your home. You can't invite people into your home while you're cleaning. That's how I look at it. Nikki?
So I think they can be done simultaneously, in the sense that we need to know what we're striving for and what we're actually trying to be, and have that inform, because I think that informs the marketing, and have, while we're saying, hey, listen, we want this type of person. This is what, and this is how we're going to get them. And anyone who's not acting this way, we need to either rectify your behavior or sayonara, see you later. I think in the immediacy, we need to stop mentioning famous Freemasons, because like any ad with Benjamin Franklin is, I think of Farmers Life Insurance or whatever it is, like Penn Life Insurance. Like it's just there's this. We have these weird, like this fetishization of like George Washington was a Freemasonry, so yeah, like we got to be like him, and you're like, what does that even mean? So I think that, without getting in another diatribe, I think the marketing can be part of informing the house cleaning, because I think, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. Jason, are you still with us?
Tendril. Jason?
I think we lost Jason.
I think he didn't rectify his behavior.
Maybe. All right. Well, I think we may have lost the feed as well.
Gosh. I think I'm bad luck.
Now, maybe.
I think so.
That's okay. We have a way to fix it. Hey, you guys, it looks like we may have lost the feed, so we're gonna pop out and pop back in, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back.
Oh my God.
I'm unfrozen.
We're back. We've managed to unfreeze Jason. Hopefully we're
Matrix.
Yeah. Hopefully we're back on track now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me just bring the comments window back.
From outer space.
Yeah, so we were talking about whether oh, there we go.
Nope, sorry.
We were talking about whether we should be marketing or whether we should wait. I personally believe that if you wait for the perfect product, you'll never, as Steve Jobs said, real artists ship, right? I think you have to. So my recommendation would be to have what they call minimum viable product, right? And then keep upgrading, right? Keep a steady, constant improvement.
Yeah.
Excelsior.
Right. But I think this is where Grand Lodges can help by not necessarily, putting their foot down and saying, you must be like this or you must be like that, but by inspiring and providing resources for lodges to kind of up the experience and improve the product. And then sort of creating some expectations around, creating the right kind of comportment when in public.
What you're saying too is that it's about work. It's about, Grand Lodges especially. It's about all these guys doing work, to write our house before we start doing this stuff. And I had one experience at the conference of Grandmasters, and I've said it a million times. I'll keep saying it until I die. It's literally weaponized boredom. It is the worst conference I've ever been to in my entire life. And the thing is that that could be amazing. You could really do some cool work on a national level there, but that's not what that place is about. Mm-hmm. It's not about doing the work. It's not about, sitting down and trading ideas like an actual conference would be. It's more about sitting around in a circle and saying how great your Grand Lodge is when no one's listening, it's
and no one's asking.
Yeah, exactly. And then walking around a crappy hotel in a third tier city while people handing each other lapel pins that no one will ever wear. That's what that's about.
Lapel pins invented? Or lapel pins are always
I would say not long after lapels were invented.
I don't. That can't be when was it just everyone was like, oh, you know what I need just stuff to put on my collar. I don't know. It's just very vexing.
Yeah.
I agree.
So Jeff Dyer said in the comments, he said, we should partner more with the Shrine. It's national and the public has a positive image of it. And I would say, yes, that's true to a point. But I can tell you, and this is going to probably upset some Shriners and some units, when I see little clown cars at a parade, that's not...
Who is that speaking to anymore?
Exactly, right?
And not just that, but okay, so here's my thing is that fine, partner with the Shrine, but the Shrine doesn't really maybe even want to be Masons anymore. I'm serious. They've talked about for the past 8 to 10 years. They've been talking about dropping the requirement of being a Mason to be a Shriner. Mm-hmm. They've already dropped the requirement of being Scottish Rite to be a Shriner, and so I don't know.
No, but here's the thing. I think that's a reasonable thing, and Richard says it's a bait and switch, right? But I think that's reasonable. True. But I think you have to look at who your target market is. Our target market are young men, and the question is what do they want?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I think I almost can kind of be okay with the Shrine just because I think that they have a legitimate value proposition in the sense that they have hospitals, right? They want to make sure that money is taken care of, and creating a rickety bridge to get to them when they already kind of have a sick castle. Why? Why should I potentially lose someone who's going to be a member or serve on why would I say, hey, listen, this guy is a lawyer. He could do pro bono work for us if he's a member. That would be free, but he's got to join a lodge and then he's got to go to meetings and then he's got to become a Shriner and he's got to pay if the lodge doesn't act on their stuff, they got to worry about that. It's I can almost understand that. I think that we are, and again, I am a very specific type of millennial male, right? I'm a I'm a New York City hipster with a beard and a bad haircut, right? So like whatever. But I do know that I am very specific about where I spend my money and very specific about where I spend my time. And like I've sat in lodge meetings and been like, yeah, 5 years ago this was worth my time. Today, nope. I'm not coming here ever again. I just won't, right? Just because it's not worth it. So, man, you gotta be. We have to compete.
And that's right.
You have to. You have to compete
right.
with.
Well, that's the thing. Is that how you make it worth it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you honestly, it's like if every member thought about their lodge as an important thing in their life and like dressed up for it or like took time for it or like was like I look at it the same way as like when I walk into, and I don't mean to, and I don't know if this offends everyone or just you two or whatever, like I'm not saying everyone has to drive BMW, but if you drive a Honda Accord, at least don't have like old McDonald's wrappers in the back of your Honda Accord. Like take care of your stuff.
Apparently you've been in my Honda Accord.
I'm just saying, but like it's like I'm not saying like you need to wear a Rolex, but if you wear a watch and you take care of it, like cool, great, that's awesome. I'm not saying like you need to only buy the most expensive stuff because that's unrealistic. But like if you're gonna,
but what you do have, take some pride.
Take some pride in it, and I think that's seen, and like that is from active consideration to the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel to like the liquid you pour in the funnel. That's everything. Like it's just like
right.
Oh God, it's right. There's so many things that are so easily fixed, and I think a part of that too is like the ego around your type of Freemasonry. Like if you're gonna go around and call yourself a Knight Commander, man, you better look like a Knight Commander. You know what I mean? If you're gonna say that like this is drawn from I am building King Solomon's temple as my allegory, and like you're a person who chooses to make fun of or not consider other humans equal to you, like
right.
I think you're missing the message, dude. You know? So needless to say, like to me it is a I don't know that Grand Lodges want to market themselves as a beacon or a bastion of Freemasonry, but like they also don't want to take the necessary steps to make sure that their Grand Lodges are in order because they want more numbers and they want to be bigger and they want to have more dues so like the Grandmaster can travel or whatever. Like this is all an illusion. This is my Instagram account. It's all fake.
That's exactly it.
Only people who know me either know me because they like me and know me or dislike me because they know me. So like if you want to go with this like this whole like perception of if you have a major Grand Lodge building in the central of the city, or you have a small Grand Lodge building that operates as an office and an administrative building, like what are the people, like what is your mission statement? How are you accomplishing it? And when you go to work, can people be like, oh yeah, those guys do something. This is what they do. And like, if you're one of those guys who's obsessed with the medals, like, do the medals even look good on your shirt?
Well, there you go. There you go.
All right. So here's what I want to say to anybody who's my generation or older who's listening to this. You might think that what Nikki is saying sounds maybe a little, and don't take this the wrong way, Nikki. It may sound a little shallow, right? It may sound a little, a little too image conscious. But let me tell you, this is where the young generation is, right? This is, in other words, the reason that we affiliate ourselves with things in Gen Z. It's funny, we call them Zillennials now, right? Because it's not, we've been talking about millennials for the last several years, and guess what? They're all like in their late 20s and early 30s.
Yeah, dude.
The young generation that's coming up is Gen Z, and they're very different, right? And I think maybe that's our next show, Jason, is talking about Gen Z.
Sure.
But but whereas it used to be that people would adopt a brand, and Freemasonry, for better or worse, is a brand, right? You see the square and compasses, it symbolizes something, it creates some images in your head, right? Now those images could be Illuminati, treasure, and Declaration of Independence and all that kind of stuff, lost symbol, or it could be, hey, my grandfather was one of those guys, and there's a lodge down the street, and there's pretty good guys, and they do barbecues twice a year, right? It could be any of those things, right? But there was a time in the in the baby boomer generation going back where people bought a brand because they knew there was some trust around it. It met their needs, and they could trust it. It was a mark of quality. Well, today brands are part of your identity, right? People don't wear a Rolex because it's necessarily because it's a great watch. They wear a Rolex because it says something about them, right? People drive the car that they drive because it says something about them. It's a signal to the world that becomes part of their identity, right? For better or worse, right? But that's my point is that this is how the world is. And I think our job is to make Masonry relevant to those people without losing what it is that is core to us, right?
Yeah. I mean, to put it in other terms that maybe the audience is much more familiar with, is that those brands are a symbol.
Yeah.
They are. And
they
that's
absolutely are.
And then that's exactly it. And so in Masonry, how you comport yourself, how you look, how you act is a symbol. And it goes to what Masonry is. It is how Masonry is marketed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, man, it's even to me, like, just do it well. Just like,
yeah.
If you're a esoteric lodge, like, do presentations well. Like, make sure the slide and the projector work. If you it's
before
it's
you do
simple,
it.
It's, I don't know, honestly, it's like simple stuff like that. Like, if you do barbecues, like, don't go there and be like, oh man, we didn't bring ice. Just do things well and it's fine. You know what? It's stuff like that drives me like crazy. And it's like, if someone doesn't like my brand of Freemasonry, that's fine. But if you are a Freemason and you go to lodge and no one has a good time, that means you're doing it poorly and you are bad at your job as a Freemason. That's what it comes down to. Like, if you go and like, oh man, we're supposed to start at 7:30, but we're starting at the old, like, oh yeah, we're on Mason time, haha, we're an hour late. Why?
Right.
That means that you're bad at your job. You are ill prepared.
Preach.
And like, you're wasting my time. So if you are a lodge that is, people are blue collar workers and they come straight from work and they don't wear suits, but like the polo shirt and jeans is what they wear, awesome. You know what? Like, make sure your polo shirt is like a
presentable.
Normal, I don't know, make it like, just make it presentable. Or like, if your thing is like, we don't do esoteric stuff, but we're super centric on community building, and like, my kid is in D Malay and my daughter's a Joby, and you guys do that, like, do that well and be responsible adults to them and take care of your families and your community. Like, that's a normal thing. That's not weird. And guess what? That's still success. If you are saying we don't do esoteric stuff because that's not Freemasonry, or we do crab boils, boil the best crabs of the world, or whatever the hell. Like, but don't get to me with this, like, I'm building King Solomon's temple and I'm Benjamin Franklin and like World War II and Audie Murphy, and like, be bad because like Audie Murphy's lauded because like he was decorated for being an amazing soldier who was a great representative of the army. Benjamin Franklin, we still talk about it because he was an intelligent inventor of things and was a successful statesman. Like,
and was good at everything he did.
And it was good at everything he did. And it's like, so why do we like laud these people for all these things, but the only thing we laud them for in our marketing materials is that they were a Freemason? Like, it is the age-old stuff that it's age-old. I hate even saying that. It is the thing I hate about Masons, where they're like, I want a medal because I want to sit in the chair and get the medal. Like, sit in the chair, get the medal, be obsessed with yourself, and dress yourself like Louis Mountbatten. Wear as many breast stars as possible, but friggin' earn the things and do the work that's befitting of them. And that's it. You can walk around like you're the first Earl of Burma. I don't give a shit. Do it. But guess what? At least, like, do the work associated with it. Or if you're not into that, and you're into, like, conjuring devils, conjure all the grimoire you can, read all the grimoire books, conjure all the stuff, donate to the Patreon and become an executive producer of X-Oriente, and, like, do that. That's what we call a callback in the business.
So, that's
he's
nice.
Good. He's good.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you don't like what I'm saying, find a flaw in that logic. Email me at njseqv@gmail.com and let's fight, because I would rather prove you wrong. I would rather prove you wrong and make you feel bad about yourself until you learn and feel better about what the argument, than have you screw up this organization.
All right. So with that, I would say if you do email him, ccxoriente@gmail.com and let us know, because we'll have Nikki back and we'll put him in the hot seat again. you can have your way with him then.
Tagger says he wants Nikki to start a show that's just him ranting.
That's right. I think Nikki,
like survival kits now or something like
Nikki,
that.
now we're gonna have to get you some gear to throw in your bag and
here's what I think we should do. Yeah. Here's what we could do. Here's what we do is that we get Nikki some gear to throw in his bag, and I think that he records us a Nikki rant, and that we run one of those every week. And it would be beautiful. Old man yells at cloud every week. I love this.
As long as we can call this segment what really grinds my gears, I'm 100% fine with this.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes, he'll be the Andy Rooney of
Yep. You know what grinds my gears?
You know what really grinds my gears?
Gears.
Yeah. Gears grind my gears.
Yep.
Cool. Listen, Nikki, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you. Come back whenever you have some time in between Crazy Johns. And at this point, I want to thank our executive producers for making this happen. We just managed to, because of your support, we managed to ship Jason a whole bunch of gear to hopefully improve the quality of the show. And Nikki, we're gonna outfit you with some stuff and so that you can appear on here more often. It's going to be great. And so if you would like to become an executive producer and help support the show, you can do that at our Patreon site. It's patreon.com/X-Oriente. You can become an executive producer, and you will get access to the Ex Libris library that we're uploading this week. It's Grimoires.
Grimoires for everyone.
Grimoires for everyone.
And Nikki, don't make believe like you're not stoked for that. So shut up.
Yeah. Exactamo.
Sorry.
So anyway, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you to Richard and Adam and Jeff. You guys have been great, and everybody who showed up. Join us again next week, same time, and we'll have another show for you. Anything else, Jason? Any plugs? Any shameless? Anything? What about Nikki? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I'd actually like to. If you are in the DMV, or the East Coast, or anywhere in the world, on August 10th, New Rome Council number 554, I don't even know, of our Allied Masonic degrees. Our council in Washington, D.C. is having an in-gathering. We have 2 speakers, and we're portraying the Order of the Secret Monitor, first grade, and we'll have little jewels and baubles and stuff like that. You can find more information on our Facebook page. It's just New Rome Council number 554, or by yelling at a cloud or emailing me or whatever the case might be.
Is it open to any Mason, or do you have to be an AMD?
Have to be an Allied Masonic, AMD Mason, so that kind of limits the pool a little bit. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, if you're an AMD Mason and you haven't seen the Order of the Secret Monitor, it's a great degree. It's one of my favorites. In fact, I think it is. Well, it's that and the Royal Ark Mariner degree I think are kind of tied, but it's a great degree. It's certainly worth your while. So anyway, thank you very much for being here. Thank you again, Nikki. Thank you everybody for listening. And if you like the show, please give us a positive review on the iTunes or the new podcast app. If you're running the OS, what is it? What's the new one that they just announced?
30, 90? I don't know.
Yeah.
I lost track.
Yeah. But, leave us a positive review, drop us a line, become an executive producer. Every little bit helps. And by all means, if you're not subscribed to us, please subscribe. And then remember to hit the blog. It's X-Oriente.com. We usually will post additional notes and links and things like that to stuff we've talked about. So check that out as well. Anyway, thanks very much for being here. Fiat Vox, everybody.
Good night.
Arigato gozaimasu.